it offers a ton more capability for retailers to stay engaged with the consumer post-transaction, right? Smart targeted marketing campaign can be done via our, plugin with Alipay, with PayPal. So I think it just like it opens the door to the retailers to not only have incremental user base to shop at their locations, but it's more integrated. It's a checkout experience, right? So it's not purely transactional. It's building a better experience for their customer, actually help them save additional fees because, payments, yes, especially payments via wallet, they are more secure. So that's why we are actually able to cap that payment fees over 70% for global transactions and profit about 30-40% for domestic transactions.
Hello and welcome to the eCom Ops podcast. We believe that there is more than enough content focused on e-commerce marketing and not enough content celebrating the real heroes of e-commerce, those running the operation. Each week, we find and interview an e-commerce operations expert to share the secrets behind how some of this industry's most exciting businesses are run. I'm your host, Norbert Strappler, the CEO of SyncSpider.
Hello and welcome to another eCom Ops podcast. My name is Norbert and today I'm happy to talk to Mason Lin from Yuansfer. Hey Mason, great to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, cool. It's really great. We're talking about payments today. This is payment solutions. This is really, really great. Yuansfer is an alternative payment platform that enables brands to accept all global QR code-based wallets, including PayPal, Venmo, Alipay, and with one integration. So tell us a bit more about yourself and what you're doing at Yuansfer.
Yeah, awesome. So let's start with myself. Mason Lin, I'm the founder of Yuansfer. I'm a first generation immigrant to the United States. I actually decided to become American when I was 12. So it's just pretty random. And then, stayed through college in the United States, went to China, trying to start off the next Alibaba or JD.com, eventually ended up creating one of the first fintech companies over there back in 2014. It's a company called Done Data. Specifically, it's like a lending tech platform where we facilitate, bank loans to SMBs. We're more like an algorithm, someone that facilitate that loan or for better, cheaper and more efficient loan decisions. So the company sold it to one of the biggest e-commerce platforms in China. That's how, we ended up creating Yuansfer. Relatively the same team. Our CTO came from that startup as well. So essentially, because of that fintech that I created back in 2014, that I was also a part of that, what's so-called cashless revolution in China. So having not just witnessed, but being a part of that revolution, I developed a lot of relationship with, Tencent and Financial, the parent companies of Alipay, WeChat Pay, because we were digging into that payment data for a lot of that lending insights, right? So because of that relationship and then, good timing, that was the time when I was looking for, to move back to the United States, when I had 2 kids, essentially for, better air quality and things like that. But on top of that, there was a time when those Chinese, gazillion-dollar company were looking for expansions outside of China. After learning my personal background, they wanted to partner up with me so that we can actually facilitate their payments or become their acquirers in the United States. So created the Yuansfer company back in early 2017, Pi Day, March 14th, because the name of Yuansfer actually originates from one, obviously being the currency, but on top of that, we think it means a full circle. It means like, equal access for everyone, right? So, that's just like a long way to introduce myself. But,
hey, this is why we're here.
Yeah, personally, I
want to learn from you. So everything is fine. Thank you very much. Mason, so it's another payment provider, yeah? So another tool for payments. What is what sets you apart from your competition? Why Yuansfer?
So yeah, great question. So we are not just a payment platform. We typically call ourselves like a checkout platform, and that we differentiate us. Like we value the payment experience, right? So that's why we started out with the alternative payments, because when you look at some of the developing countries like China, everyone over there have transitioned to payments and literally everything with the super apps, right? Super apps equals to Alipay, WeChat Pay. So being able to accept those type of payments would be really, really essential for American retailers. They sell on an annual basis $80 billion worth of goods to Chinese consumers, and then not being able to take their preferred payment just doesn't make any sense, right? And especially for someone like me living between the borders, constantly travel back and forth, it's super inconvenient, right? So that's why we are coming in. Yes, we are doing payments, but we are doing alternative payments. We are trying to bridge the gap, right? On one hand, make those 1.4 billion consumers using wallets, using those Alipays of the world, more seamlessly being able to purchase goods globally. And on the other hand, when we are catering to American merchants, we are bridging the gap as well. So we provide that payment acceptance to them so that, it's seamless when they engage with their consumers globally who have already transitioned to wallets. So I think the keywords is that we are doing payments, yes, but we are specifically focusing on the wallets with the QR components. So Alipay, WeChat Pay, and if you combine all of those wallet users, it's 2 billion globally. So
it's insane, an insane huge number of those users. And I need to say this was more or less a bit sarcastic before, because I know what is behind a payment service provider, which effort needs to be done to even become one, and to get the thing up and running and secure, which is of course in payments the most important factor, that a platform is secure and the money gets from A to B. And it's very very huge respect that I have for everyone who is doing something in fintech. It's very very sensitive niche that you're in, and that really needs to work. So Yuansfer offers a simple integration that allows businesses to accept all the major global wallets. This is what I heard out of that. What was the process of developing these integrations?
Great question again. I think you hit the nail right on. Being payments platform is not easy because we constantly have to think about compliance and work with banks and work with payment network partners. And like I mentioned, all of the companies, all of the super apps, all of those alternative payments that we support in the company, it's tough to, just become their partner. So actually the first, 2-3 years, and even to today, we are still onboarding additional super apps to our platform. So it's definitely going to take a lot of time. So if you are asking what it takes, to become someone like us, definitely being conscious about, compliance. We have a compliance team in-house. So, licensed in the United States. We actually just created our entity in Canada and Europe. So, licensing, being compliant to regulators, in different geographic locations, and then having the expertise integrating to the wallets, some of the technical components. And then I think just our previous startup experience definitely contribute to that ease of integration that we have with our partners. So it's like technical components. We talk with all of those major wallets globally. We talk with regulator. We have our sponsor bank who's powering the transactions. So definitely trying to make sure what you mentioned earlier, making sure that, when we onboard our customer, it's going to be compliant, it's going to be secure, and it's going to be, driving a better payment experience so that they get to have, higher conversion rate when they have global consumers.
Mm-hmm. And you're supporting both worlds. You have these online stores, and you also have in-store touchless payments. So, have you found a difference between online and in-store businesses when it comes to their willingness to even try the product?
Yeah. So, actually, having seen the difference, having seen the gap between online and in-store payments is really what drives us. to this space in general, because another reason why we chose to bring wallets to the United States is essentially, we talked about it, there are 2 billion wallet users globally. Mm-hmm. And then the one key components of those wallets is that they are not just for online transactions, because, they develop their own QR code infrastructure. So in store, it's the same solution. And that same solution will bring a tons of consistency, not just for us, but for merchants who have like the customer checking out, say, for instance, online with PayPal or online with Alipay, and then at the same time being able to offer the same payment methods, not just for sales coming in, but offer say return to the same type of tender, right? The customer pay with. So bridging the difference for online and in-store payments is our goal. And then, us choosing, wallets, and then specifically for that QR component is, really is the last mile connecting online and in-store, and then offering a true online channel payment experience for both customers and merchants that we serve.
Okay. And you have you're fluent in both the Chinese and the American market, right? How much did this dual knowledge play a role in the creation of Yuansfer?
Oh yeah, so we are actually an American entity, founded 2017 in New York. But your question sort of bring almost like bring us a competitive advantage versus the other players, right? Because we have both first mover advantage, having to support QR payments in the United States 4 years ago before QR was widely adopted. But also we have the second mover advantage. Like my personal background, started the company in China like 8 years ago when QR was just literally 8 years ago. It's comparable to United States right now when QR was taking off. Super app became widely accepted, everywhere, online and in-store. So both first mover and second mover advantage gave us a lot of insights about, what's ahead. So that's why we partnered up with PayPal and actually became one of the first partners to support QR payments in-store in the United States, and also some parts of the other, places, other countries in the world.
Great. You have over 2,000 retailers who have already put their confidence in Yuansfer. What is your current strategy for expanding your hold on the payment service industry?
Awesome. So we are still very lean team. We don't actually have a lot of sales associates going out knocking on the doors. So even though we are 30 people strong right now, like I mentioned, we value quite a lot on security components, compliance, and services and things like that. So ultimately, when we go to market, we typically be relying on partners, right? So it's also like making our solution more plug and play. But also when we integrate with the platform, specifically a channel partner like Salesforce, WooCommerce, the e-commerce platforms, it's solving for the plug and play, right? It's going to be more seamless. So when merchants be accessing our solution, it's plug and play. But after developing that sort of solution, we typically be turning a platform into a channel partner. So we have quite a lot of co-sell initiative with the platform that we integrated. We developed incentive for both parties to actually enable broader acceptance at the merchant base level.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, on your LinkedIn, you have announced multiple strategic partners. As you mentioned, WooCommerce just before. You mentioned them within last year. So tell me a bit more about these partnerships and the strategy behind them. How did they benefit from Yuansfer?
Yeah, great question. So obviously, we'd be benefit having those type of partnership, right? So our solution more plug and play. But for the partners that we are integrated with, they will have more capability to offer our solution to their existing customers, right? So just enriching their marketplace in a way that now whenever their merchants be asking for alternative payments, asking for online in-store consistency sort of wallet experience, they now can just simply download our plugins or extensions on that e-commerce platform. So it's them, answering to the increasing needs of their merchants, especially, during the COVID, people are looking for contactless, they're looking for innovative ways to stay engaged with their consumers. So accepting alternative payments, accepting super apps is the best answer that those partners can give to their, merchants.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a lot of companies or business owners are always looking into partnering up with other companies. What is your advice for them? How do you proceed when you get in touch with a new potential partner?
So we are always learning, right? So, great question again. So we're always willing to learn, and then, how we can provide additional value, right? So I think overall, we are not looking to, to take over, even in the payment space, we are not looking to, rip out that merchant's existing payment infrastructure or their payment provider and come in, just take over. We are always additive. We always think about what else can we provide, right? So I think, yes, we are also learning, but, overall, I think our motivation is just to provide, things that not being offered, things that we can bring to the table in addition to whatever merchants or partners that they currently have.
Yeah. What are common mistakes that you see payment service providers are making?
We definitely make quite a lot of mistakes, right? So payments is, like you alluded to in the beginning, very, very complicated process.
Yeah.
So, compliance, risk, security and things like that. So I think for us, right, we wish we could even stay more focused, like, just solving for the biggest problem and solving that problem only. So I think as we evolve, we are becoming even more focused, right? Taking on wallets and, positioning ourselves to connect the last mile, for super apps and also the stores, right? So I think the common mistake, I think, not just the ones that we make, but broadly, I think just like for a lot of the startup companies, it's not having a clear focus.
Yeah.
It will be quite a lot of, interesting ideas coming up, just learn to resist those like temptations. I think would be the way to go.
You mentioned before that there are 2 billion people that use wallets. Why should people in eCom use Yuansfer, beside that fact that there are so many people using wallets?
Yeah. I think ultimately, obviously it has to be consumer driven, right? So eCom, I think it's relevant for any companies. If you are not following through what your customer is asking for, then you potentially lose the customer and eventually lose the game, right?
Yep.
So 2 billion, it's like, a third of the world's population. That's like
it's insane.
It's insane. And then the reason why I highlighted, those wallets are essentially super apps, right? Because it actually, solve not only for payments. So say, for instance, like, when we partnered up with Alipay, right? When we enable a merchant to accept those type of payments, there's actually more to be done, right? So typically for a merchant, they are not only interested to accept the payments, but how do they stay relevant post-transaction? How do they stay engaged with the customer? How do they bring in additional incremental traffic to their locations, to their stores, online e-commerce or stores, regardless, right? So it's constant, thinking that they need to go through on a daily basis. So that's why, I think specifically my answer to your question is, obviously this consumer driven with the 2 billion users. And on top of that, because they are super apps, right, it offers a ton more capability for retailers to stay engaged with their consumer post-transaction, right? Smart, targeted marketing campaign can be done via our, plugin with Alipay, with PayPal. So I think it's just like, it opens the door to the retailers to not only have incremental user base to shop at their locations, but, it's more integrated. It's it's a checkout experience, right? So
Mhm.
again, it's not purely transactional. It's building a better experience for their customer. Actually, help them save additional fees because payments, yes, especially payments via wallet, they are more secure. So that's why we are actually able to cap that payment fees over 70% for global transactions and profit about 30-40% for domestic transactions. So it's like
That's wow. Wow. Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's absolutely huge. Now I have a web store. How hard is it for me to get started with you and implement your tool?
So the first question that we always ask is if a prospect, or in this case, are you running on some of that e-commerce platform? Are you running on WooCommerce? Are you running on Shopify? If answer is yes, I think it just like I mentioned earlier, it's a plug and play. Download our extension from the marketplace of your platform. That's good to go.
Perfect.
Or if you build your own, we also offer customized integration, or we have actually a out-of-box solution, right? So that with minimal effort, you can just typically for our integration on average take about a few hours to integrate, and even better sometimes we actually have developed some of the SDKs, right? So could be in minutes that our solution can be integrated.
Perfect. So pretty fast if you have Shopify or WooCommerce, and fast enough if you have any other solution. Do you have, I always like to ask that, do you have 2 or 3 quick wins for e-commerce store owners that they can do to improve their checkout, for instance?
So I think if the e-commerce has been tracking their cart abandonment rate, I think the quickest way that the merchant or the retailer could see is that once they implemented our solution for alternative payments, especially if they are recognizable globally, right? Say China, once they accepted Alipay on their platform, that cart abandonment rate would drop from 60-70%, because that's like industry standard. Whenever a customer doesn't have the preferred payment options available, they would just drop off, right? Yep. And then once that's being implemented, that 70% would just literally be gone, right? They won't be dropping out because of lack of payment options. And on top of that, our integration actually offer not just payment acceptance, but we are integrated with, say the Chinese, customs. So when the retailer decided to, hey, I want to ship the product to China, right? Direct B2C, to Chinese consumers, we can actually do that, right? And again, because we are integrated, we are supporting Super App. There are quite a lot of interesting components or functionalities that we can enable. So it's payments, and thus, drastically lower their abandonment rates. And then on top of that, we have features that will actually enable, a lot of incremental sales. Once those, payment options being offered, shipping options being offered, it could actually drive a lot of additional traffic. So if they track also, their traffic coming in from some of the specific countries where we are available, they could see, lower abandonment rate, increasing traffic to their locations.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. How or what role does automation play in your operations?
Yeah. So at this current stage, I think, for the past year or so, we started implementing quite a lot of automation tool, mostly for internal users. Like, we want to make sure that we are compliant, right? So automation is a big deal in our compliance program. And automation is a big deal for our onboarding process, right? So we want to, take down the gap, take down the barriers. We want to bridge the gap. And one way to do that, obviously, would be automation. So automating our onboarding process, so it's quick and easy for retailers, and automating our compliance and, KYC process, so we can stay on top of the game, being compliant and secure.
Good. Got it. Okay. Last question for today. As usual, who has taught you the most about e-commerce in your career?
I think, a lot of people. Like I personally, I love to just have conversation with entrepreneurs. I actually started the first, Amazon shop when I was in high school. That was like,
Oh, wow.
A long time ago.
Nice.
I actually, made quite a lot of, pocket money out of that project. So I think it's a long time, still ongoing learning process for me. And a lot of people have definitely helped me into, getting to know more about e-commerce. And then also like, having the experience working in multiple, global locations. Like in China, I went through that whole process, right? Because, Chinese e-commerce is rather, is about the same as the rest of the world combined. So witnessing and being able to facilitate some of the e-commerce companies, some of the retail SMBs in China also helped me learn. And then specifically, how would the end game look like, right? So constantly, thinking about how this will evolve into, right? So again, just like I alluded to, it's the first mover, it's the second mover, and then a lot of, lesson that I learned simply by talking with, a bunch of, entrepreneurs.
Awesome. Yeah, I think this is the best way. Networking, talking, learning from each other is always good. Thank you so much for your time. It was really a pleasure talking to you. And what should I say? Yeah, implement a wallet solution that for your store if you don't have it. Yuansfer is a perfect solution. I think it provides a lot of benefits when you start accepting QR code based wallets and provide new solutions to your checkout experience, because it can give you the one or other customer that would not be able to pay or that has no other solution or that just want to pay with a specific solution, and you can still drop the abundant, the card abundant. And I also think that it's worth just trying. If you have Shopify or if you have WooCommerce, it's an installation, a sign up, and it's easily configured, and it's worth a try to offer new solutions for customers. And also, as you said, I think you can even lower the expenses, the fees for the transactions, which is also always great to lower costs.
Yeah, perfect input. And thank you, Logan, for all those great questions.
Talk soon. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
And that's it for this episode of the eCom Ops podcast. If you enjoyed listening and would like us to find and interview more e-commerce operations experts, please search for eCom Ops podcast in your favorite podcast listening app, and then subscribe, rate, and review. Until next time.